Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things I want to straighten out. Again, we had some debate earlier on the floor, and the same issues came up. Let's be clear. Let's understand something. There's a difference between immigrants and illegal immigrants. It's that very special word, illegal. We all know what it means. And we shouldn't try to morph that. We shouldn't try to confuse it. We shouldn't try to make it difficult to understand. Nobody on this side of the aisle, I would hope nobody in Congress, has anything in opposition to legal immigrants. Legal immigrants are some of our best citizens. Legal immigrants care and love about this country. They pledge to the flag. They understand the importance of freedom. They're entrepreneurs. They believe in Americanism. They believe in American exceptionalism. They're great men and women. We're talking about illegal immigrants, some of whom are not bad individuals, but all of whom are illegal, and some are bad that are coming from every corner of the earth, and including our enemies, whether it be communist China, whether it be Russia, whether it be Iran, and a whole lot of other countries. We don't know who they are, what they're about, where they're going, what they're doing, but we know there's a danger, and even Biden's FBI director says it's the greatest danger this country has ever faced. So what this bill does, I'm not even on the bill, but you just read it. It's saying you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to report on the effects on law enforcement of illegal immigration. We need to do that. We need to understand it. We shouldn't be afraid of it because it's a problem. And when it comes to some of the bills that were mentioned by my good friend, the ranking member, funding for the border bills, let's not confuse it. It wasn't good funding to button up the border. It was increased funding basically for catch and release by another name. It was funding to move more illegals through faster. It was funding for quicker processing. It was funding to make what is illegal in some way legal. That's not what we want funding for. We want to button up the borders. And the Senate bill, every time somebody's going to say it, I'm going to say what I'm going to say now. It was a bad bill. The only thing worse than doing nothing is to do something that isn't good and pretend that you're doing something that is good. It was a bad bill. It really didn't do anything about catch and release in another form. It didn't build the wall. It didn't expedite to the country of origin. It didn't do anything like what Title 42 was, which could have been modified for today's times and what we need to do now. It didn't stop the flow, the hemorrhaging into our border. It was a bad bill, and it was a fake bill, and it did more harm than good because it didn't tell the American people the truth. And you know what? Why should we be afraid? Why should we be afraid to reveal, which is what this legislation would do, how much hurt and harm to law enforcement illegal immigration has done? Why should we be afraid for our citizens to hear that? Why should we be afraid for anyone to hear what the costs of illegal immigration are? Why should we be afraid to see what the increase in crime has done to our country and to our inner cities? Why should we be afraid to hear about the deterioration in morale that it's caused in law enforcement and the physical harm it's caused to them? That's all this bill does, is tell the truth and lets us see clearly what is happening to our country and what is happening to law enforcement by something that is illegal. We need to stop running away from it. We need to tell the truth. And the only way to fix it is to completely, thoroughly have a full and thorough understanding of what the issues are and what the problem is. That's what this bill does. That's why I'm voting for it. That's why I think there should be bipartisan support for this bill on both sides of the aisle. I yield back.
Gentleman yields.